Yo, recording is in progress. Oh, that was a test.
Oh shit! Wait, I have to turn off this VPN. I'm like in Japan right. Wait, my
What?
VPN.
You
My
don't want to be in
VPN is
Japan?
set to Japan because that's how what I had to do to watch this movie.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Okay.
Yep.
I watched it relatively normal as these. I mean, I didn't have any trouble with this one. Not like the
yeah,
one you had to
next
cobble
week's.
together. Jeez.
Well, you know, I'm glad. I'm glad that I could make it work because fuck.
Oh, I'm gonna drop something into the
The
Facebook
most
chat.
effort anyone's ever gone to for a film they don't want to watch.
I did
I mean,
run a
I didn't know I wanted to watch Boggy 3 when I was doing it for that, even though that still
That's true.
wasn't as much trouble because I didn't have to translate the subtitles for that. But I mean, who knows? Maybe after Smolensk will be like, wow, that was really funny.
Maybe we'll be killed and we'll suddenly believe.
Yeah,
We're all
I don't
being
think Russia did shoot down that
Polish
plane.
nationalists after watching it.
pierogi filled.
I'm trying to find a stupid link. I'm spending too much time on it now, and it's becoming difficult. Okay.
Do you need a number, Luke?
Yes.
This
Always
would
assume I don't know the number.
word 71.
Just always have a pair of pants ready.
Oh, here I'm putting into the Facebook chat the one thing that might be more offensive than Smolensk.
Close my Chrome. Okay.
This is the worst thing you'll ever watch. I mean, later, but yeah, of course.
Mm.
But yeah, so you'll
Before
stop after 2 minutes. If you go more than 2 minutes into this, something's wrong with you. Not this movie. I mean, did we didn't say the number yet? Are you still looking that
Yeah,
up?
I've got the number,
I
but
said
I haven't done the intro yet.
I
Oh,
said
right.
it's 71.
I was gonna wait till we had enough of a pause. In at number 71, it's the film that teaches you all is well.
Idiot.
All is well. Dun, 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 dun. Okay,
Yeah,
I had to get that out of my system.
just throwing it right on the table. Films and Filth. This is Matt here.
This
I,
is Luke here. Fuck you, I'm
I
going first today.
I'm idiot number 3. I'm Rancho. I have main character syndrome. Hi, everybody loves me. You guys are you're the other two guys.
Okay, sure. Anyway, I was just gonna say, like, the Indian movies we've done so far, not enough. I mean, the musical numbers in here were great, but I kind of want more musical numbers, you
No,
know?
no, these were so good.
They
Like
were
those
great. What
two.
was there was great, except for that first one, but they were good, but I want more of them. Maybe that's the Bollywood thing. I want like every other scene to be like a crazy musical number.
Yeah, this is good songwriting.
Mm.
I did not look up who it was. Anyway, we're doing Three Idiots since
Yeah.
we idiots did not remember to say the name of the film. This
Another
is
podcast where maybe we probably should have gotten a guest for it, but it just kind of blindsided us, and here we are.
Well, yeah, like we're doing this list of like what IMDb calls the 100 greatest films. We don't necessarily know what all of them are. I had no idea this was an Indian film until like I
It
searched for
started.
it on Friday night. Yeah.
yeah, there are songs there sorry, there are songs.
There are
There are
songs too.
movies on the list. There are movies on the list that are obviously Indian based on the title. This is not one. I as far as I can tell, there are actually several movies rated higher on the list that I think have sort of lapped this since we made the list. One of them is written by one of the writers of this film, the highest one. It's called 12th Fail, and that came out last year, and that's why it's not on the list.
Ah,
But it
so these
looks
are
like
the
maybe a drama.
hot Indian filmmakers of our time, I guess.
I mean, basically, you know, Indian cinema does not have some of the hindrances that Hollywood has right now, so they are able to. I haven't seen RRR yet. Still, I know I need to. Kill from this year is one of the best action movies I've seen in the last 20 years. I don't know if you guys have caught that. It is
The only Indian films
insane.
I've ever seen are the two we've watched for this podcast.
It is Luke. You gotta watch
And
it. You'd
both
love
times
it.
I was like, man, I should
Yeah.
watch more. But like,
well,
Christ, I don't have time to watch films for fun.
that's like possibly it's one of the most violent movies I've ever seen, which is like incredible. It's like the Raid 2, but only for half of it. Like it doesn't, you get half of a normal movie and then you get the title card and then the guy starts like exploding people's heads with like smashing people's heads in with fire extinguisher and stuff.
Sick.
He
Yeah,
kills, is what you're saying.
he starts killing. Yeah, it's very highly recommended. Any action fans listening to this and you haven't caught this 2024 movie Kill, then absolutely. But anyway, today we're talking about a movie that does not have murder in it.
No. What
Unless
theater
you
are you going to
count
see
Suicide
Killing
as
though?
murder.
I saw they're closing down the theater where we saw most of the movies in Atlanta. The
Well, the
Hollywood.
North
The,
Cam Mall Theater is still
oh,
there.
that one
That's
still
what I
did. The
thought.
Hollywood 24 I saw was biting the dust, which is the last theater I
Yeah.
saw an American movie in. So I guess that's notable.
I don't really go to Doraville very much, so I
It
haven't.
sounds like nobody goes there, which is why it's closing
It's
anymore.
next to a highway. That's like kind of a terrible location, really.
Yeah, it was always a little weird, but and then they haven't renovated it since 1998 apparently, so that also has something to do with it. But just
Yeah.
noting, I woke up to that news, death of a theater
Yeah.
sometimes more than death of a
Bummer.
celebrity.
It's sad. Yeah, it is sad. A lot of several friends of mine worked there. I had one friend who worked there once who cut like back when trailers were on film, he cut together like 50 trailers into one like 20-minute supercut, and it was just completely insane, almost unwatchable. But
Mhm.
I,
what
I
can you
had
do?
seen I had seen several Indian films like in university. Of course, all these are like probably like 1990 or before. A few film dork movies, right? Sanjit Ray or whatever. And then Mark, do you remember Ban? I want to say
Yes,
Bond
I
for
do.
whichever.
I do.
Yeah. So he showed me several Bollywood movies on VHS back in the day because I'd
Yeah.
hang out with him in graduate housing. I guess he was actually on the track of the guys in this movie because he was an engineer in India that got high enough in his class that he could go do studies in America.
Well, you have to be, or someone will scream at you and you'll feel terrible
Yeah.
or
I, I
worse.
I think he's now at a university somewhere along the Mississippi River, so good for him. But yeah, I guess he had to do some of the stuff we see in this movie, which did uh I guess sort of like the lives of others, like made a bunch of spies think again. This made at least a few Indian education people think again.
Yes, it
But
did.
yeah.
It did. Affect the real life educational system, which is good, even though I don't think this movie is very progressive about, relationships or marriage, but I
Hmm.
guess baby steps, right?
Yeah, pick your battles, right? It's about one
Yeah.
thing, not about everything.
Kill isn't either, if you were wondering.
I don't think you come into that one for progressiveness.
No, it's progressive because it's the most violent Indian movie I've ever seen by like 10,000%. Anyway,
I guess none of us have been to India, right? I mean,
no,
No, I would like to.
oh yeah, I'd like to,
I'd
but I'm
be
just
into
saying
it.
none. Yeah, like Scott's been around here a few times. He spent some time in India, but yeah, for me, it's it'd be very different to go there. Uh, where have I been that's not like a first world country? I guess just Morocco. How about non-first world
I mean, the
countries?
USA.
Yeah, that's rapidly taking its nosedive, of course. But I haven't been in the USA for 20 years either, almost. So
I'm proud to
I mean,
say
I
that the
know.
worst country I've ever been to is the USA.
I'm pretty sure first, second, third world is like a very outdated term.
it is.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I guess
Where does
places
Mexico
that
fit into that?
I don't know.
Mexico was first world, I think. I don't know.
I think it really depends where you are to a certain
Yeah,
extent. But
like
hey,
it's
I don't.
in the States, right? Like you can be in some pretty
Yeah.
impoverished areas, and it's
Oh
not going to
yeah.
feel like the quote unquote
Oh,
first world.
oh crap. The second world is
Was
it's a
that communist?
designation. It's a designation to refer to countries that are aligned with communist country. They're aligned with Russia in the Cold
Right.
War era.
No, it was
Doesn't mean
not.
anything
It
now.
was not an economic designation. It was a political designation. But it was like aligned
Yeah.
countries, communist countries, unaligned countries, right? Which that was third world, and most of them just happened to be,
Huh.
the ones that were more impoverished at the time.
So third world is actually better. I think we should be a third world country.
Yeah,
Sure.
not aligned with the United
Not
States. Yeah.
not aligned with any of this bullshit. Uh,
Well,
or maybe it's time for
as this
Fourth
is a
World.
movie that's probably, I don't know, maybe this is way on people's radar, but it wasn't on
So
our
I
radars. And
mentioned to Mercy that I was going to watch this film. She's like, "Oh, that's a great film."
Oh,
Turns
there
out
you go.
she'd seen it. She
okay.
watched it with her sister because Anna's a big film dork.
Oh, so there was filmed
Nice.
work. I was just about to ask was it like a hit in
Yes.
Mexico? Well, they made the Spanish language version that you warned us about, right? If you're watching this film, it's 3 hours long and has Indians in it,
I'm
and if you're watching the other one, it's they're speaking Spanish and it's what 2 hours long instead. So don't
I'm
watch that one.
assuming they saw the Indian one, unless
Yeah,
they
yeah,
say
yeah, yeah, yeah.
otherwise. Yeah.
We've already been talking about India, so I think that's clear.
Yeah, for listeners, Anna has also guested on this podcast for those better than any other movies that we did during the strike.
Right. And you said you said was that one was a 4.5, so it's a very different rating. Like it sucks,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, okay.
Apparently it sucks. That could be, like we've seen with IMDb, it could be a bunch of people that are like, this isn't as good as the other one, I'm going to give it a 1. Then it
Yeah,
goes to
any
hell.
remake, you have that possibility, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, one thing I kind of liked about this movie is when I put it on, it felt like a bottom 100 movie, you know? And then each scene, it kind of kept getting better until like an
I
hour in, it just
really
became
liked
really good.
this film was really good at doing little like throwaway comedy things or things that seemed dumb and then actually bringing them back up later. Like this is a very smartly written film. And considering my previous like experience with Indian films was Baggy 3, which I really enjoyed, but I was never 100% sure if I was laughing at it or with it. Whereas this
I
film, I'm pretty sure a lot of that was deliberate irony and it was meant to be funny, right? But there was still
yeah,
a level of ironicness to it. Whereas this film genuinely is very smart and very funny. And
there
even
is
moments which I thought were dumb, actually they knew what they were doing. The one that comes to mind, they do the whole oh, they spent millions of dollars making a pen. But why didn't they use a pencil thing? Which everyone has heard before. Maybe in 2009 they hadn't, but at this point everyone's heard that bit before, right? And like they played it off as like, oh, Rancho's so smart because he asked the pencil question. But then right at the end of the film, they actually explain like, no, you can't use a pencil because if the graphite breaks off, it gets in equipment, it's flammable, it's like a big character moment of like, you can't always be right. And I was like, wow, even a little thing like that, which I thought was just a dumb throwaway line, they brought it back. And like when we first meet the professor, he makes like a line about like, my own son died and I came in and taught class. And when he first says it, you're like just like, oh, that's a silly comedy line to set up this character as a hard ass. No, that gets a lot of emotional payoff as well.
I took it seriously. I thought it was literally just like, oh, this guy is terrible. And he kind of is.
Yeah, but like,
But
yeah, but it's
but
like so terrible it's comedic sort of thing, right?
yeah, no, that guy is incredible. I what is his fucking name? That actor is
Virus. His
it's
name
just
is
Just call him
Virus.
a virus.
Virus is unbelievable. He's like a comedy giant in this.
Mm-hmm.
He's clearly had a long career. About I think about 5 years older than the guy who plays Rancho, which is very funny. The guy who plays Rancho is like 40 in mid 40s. Like most of these guys are mid 40s, and that guy is like
Well, yeah, because
49.
they don't like have modern day actors and kid age actors. It's just they play themselves in university in the flashbacks.
And they do a great, I mean, whatever that is, the makeup department, etc. They do a fantastic
I
job
got the
because
impression it was the hair department, to be perfectly
Yeah, the
honest.
hair is a
yeah,
big
maybe it's
part, but
that.
also like how often do we see college kids actually played by college kids, right? Like
Yeah,
we just got our first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film that actually featured teenagers.
but yeah, if you look at their photos on IMDb, it's like they all look like unbelievable. They look like fashion icons. Like
Mm.
the guy who plays Farhan, his name is Madhavan. He just has one name, you know. Anyway, so it's like that's
Always a
almost
baller
like
move, the
a
one name.
third, yeah, a whole other personality. Like I remember going to see Color Out of Space in the theater, and there was like an interview tacked on the end with Nicolas Cage. In that movie, he sort of plays like an older dad character, and then in the
Then goes insane.
yeah, no, yeah, he does go insane. But like the bonus thing is him showing up wearing an insane leather jacket that's like red and black. So it's like you You remember that these people can do a lot of, I don't know, true actors can do a lot with
Yeah, Nicolas Cage has range. He just tends
yeah.
to not get to use it very much.
No, it's
Because
just he's too
everyone wants him to go
enjoyable
full Cage.
in crazy mode. Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know if you have a superpower. I guess you have to flaunt it. You know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mark, you said this
So
is
yeah,
gonna be
Superman can write really good articles, but
the.
yep.
Mark, you said this is gonna be the best or worst summary you've come up with.
Yep, here we go. It's long because it's a 3-hour movie, okay? Farhan and Raju are best friends who are searching for their long lost friend Rancho, just like in the Hungover games. They rush to meet Chatur, who tells them that he is rich now and he is also getting his revenge because he swore he would today, 10 years ago, on September 5th, Revenge Day. By the way, Matt and Luke, you're
we
in
are
September
recording
5th
this on
right now.
September 5th. Yeah.
Happy Revenge Day.
Yay!
But also, he's found Rancho, so they all set out to find him. We flash back to their time in engineering school. Rancho is smarter than everyone, especially the teachers, just like in Good Will Hunting. Except the crusty old dean, Viru, who everyone refers to as Virus, hates him and his friends, just like in the Breakfast Club. When a student hangs himself because a drone he invented didn't work, Rancho questions Virus over whether it is really more a murder than a suicide and is concerned over his country's suicide rate, like in the lives of others. But Virus says that when his own son committed suicide, he just came to work that day.
Correction. Virus didn't know it was suicide at that point. He just said when his son died.
Oh, well,
Because it's a big reveal that it's a suicide later on.
except it's murder, like in the Murder movie. Virus starts trying to interfere with Farhan and Raju's lives by writing letters to their families. Meanwhile, Rancho started flirting with Pia, Virus's daughter, by telling her to dump every guy she's with because they're concerned about how much her watches cost.
It's just the same one guy.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's the
I thought it
same
was
one
two
guy.
guys.
No, it's one guy.
Man, she is
Hair makes a difference.
She figures it out eventually. Anyway, Rancho saves Raju's sick father's life after he almost dies by using Pia's scooter to take him to the hospital. And after some drunken hijinks, Virus threatens to expel Raju and he jumps off a building. And everyone now has to save Raju's life by lying to him in the hospital until he wakes up. Rancho encourages the other two to follow their heart. Farhan wants to pursue an internship with a wildlife photographer, and Raju just wants to pass a job interview. Virus intentionally wants to make the final exam impossible, but through more drunken hijinks, they steal the test questions. But also, Virus finds out about those hijinks too. But also, a storm takes out the electricity and floods the town, just like in Speed 2 Cruise Control. So Rancho has to deliver the baby with an improvised vacuum cleaner, just like in Human Centipede 2. Virus gives Rancho his ceremonial astronaut pen, just like in 2001 A Space Odyssey. Meanwhile, in the present, Farhan, Raju, and Shatur find what they think is Rancho's house, and his father happens to be having a funeral on Revenge Day, September 5th. But it turns out who they thought was Rancho is actually the servant's son, just like in High and Low. And there's a school teacher in now he's a school teacher in Ladakh. So they set out to find him. Farhad finds out that Pia is marrying her terrible superficial ex today, of all days, September 5th, Revenge Day. So they swoop in and take her from the wedding, just like in The Graduate. They find their real friend, the fake Rancho, at a whimsical school for children, just like in Ready Player One. Pia asks if he's married, and he says, yes, to you. They kiss. Then it turns out that Chowder's entire fortune is because of a business relationship with Rancho, whose real name is Funsuk Wangdu, which I'm pretty sure is a dick joke. Everyone high fives because Chowder sucks. The end.
Hey, how did you watch the movie, just out of curiosity?
Piracy?
Okay, it must have been.
The
main point is
some site that didn't work here.
Because she asked, "Are you married?" and he
No,
says,
I
you.
think Mark, that's just Mark making mistakes.
Oh, okay.
What? No, that didn't. That
she
happened,
says, "Are
though.
you married?" He says, "No." She says, "Are you in love with someone?" He says, "Yes, you."
Oh, maybe there's a translation skip.
That's what I was.
Maybe you had worse
about.
subtitles. I don't know. Yeah, you did. There were quite a few things there where like you were a little inaccurate, so maybe you had bad subtitles.
Was there an astronaut pin in 2001: A Space Odyssey?
There's a pen.
There was a pen.
Oh, that pen. Sorry. Pen. I was thinking pin, like someone like pinned a pin onto like a Caradolla or something, which that didn't happen. Okay, wrong pin. Excuse me. Pin.
I just started with the Good Will Hunting and I couldn't stop. Because this
I would
is
have
like
started with The Graduate because that's the one that made it into my watch viewing notes.
I'm gonna like really I did love this movie. It is a best of a lot of tropes, but like in a
I mean, a
very
lot of
good
good
way.
movies are, right?
Yeah, it's what is it? A plagiarist borrows
Good
from one
movies like
source,
The
a master
Hungover
borrows
Games.
from all several sources, and this borrows from like a lot of sources. But I
Yeah,
think this is better than Good Will Hunting in a lot of ways for a lot of
Yeah, I
reasons.
think it criticized Rancho in a way that Good Will Hunting never quite did with Will.
Yeah, then no, Good Will Hunting was basically there are the only bad guys are the bullies at the the bar or whatever, and there kind of aren't any bad guys. But also, I feel like this movie explains engineering so much better than that movie explained math.
Yeah, true.
Like I feel smarter for watching this.
well, this one started. I mean, who knows? Maybe it was something different, but I assume this was always a school movie where Good Will Hunting was what going to be like a CIA spy caper at some point.
Yes,
So,
that's true.
a few things might get lost in the mix there. Where if this one at least like was probably always about engineering, maybe question mark.
I don't know. I don't have any notes on the origin of anything. I do have that Stephen Chow wanted to remake it, and Stephen Chow just doesn't do anything anymore. But I wish that he would. That would be great. I'd love to see it like a Hong Kong version of this.
Yeah, sure. Let's see on development, anything, fresh script. They were doing a franchise. This is an excuse to get outside of a franchise, it seemed. Um,
Hmm.
Hirani and the screenwriter Joshi were going to continue with the third installment of Munabai, titled Munabai Child America. I can handle the America part, but anyway, just like we're tired of this crap, so they made something else, and that's what this is, and it was more successful than their franchise apparently. So, so one strike against franchise filmmaking. Pay attention, Hollywood.
Yep.
This was originally called Idiots. So there you go.
Sure.
That's
Well,
the origin story.
that makes sense. Why not count that fourth guy, the guy who makes a revenge bet? Why not make him an idiot too?
He
That's
was
four
pretty
idiots.
stupid.
Yeah, he was dumber than our heroes, right? Well, except for that one guy who was basically our spud, I guess. If we're
There
talking
are a
train
few.
spotting rules.
Yeah, but there is a sequel allegedly in development, but I think the guy writing it was kind of like it'll be ready when it's ready.
Hmm.
That's fine. I mean, this is the kind of thing where you could catch up like 30 years later and it's probably fine, you know? You could always make a sequel to this sort of thing. It's so
It's like Virus is in an old folks home and they just are playing pranks on him, like unplugging his heart monitor.
it's like Dennis the Menace, but Dennis the Menace is now like three middle-aged men.
Sure.
And then Virus has to be like extremely like decrepit, like in the throes of old age to make it really bizarre. That's my thought. Okay, well, let's move on.
It's so hard to talk about good movies.
There was a scene in this which I feel like was pretty much lifted wholesale by Better Call Saul.
Hmm.
In
You put
almost the last episode of Better Call Saul, there's a character in that called Howard, who's like a little bit douchey, but ultimately not hasn't done anything wrong. Um, but Saul, through various pranks and whatever, has been making his life hell. And like he eventually, like, the fun ends when he just comes into his home and he's like, "How dare you?" And they sort of did the same thing here, where they have the kid who's like, yeah, he's a bit up himself and he farts, but like he didn't deserve to have his life ruined on stage.
Well, this is a reminder to read the speech before you give it.
don't Ron Burgundy the teleprompter, you know.
Yeah, that is. I guess I should have said yeah, just like an anchorman.
Yeah, there's a few others. When they meet the real Rancho, for a minute there, I thought it was about to become like a Biff Tannen 1985 speech, you know. And he said that a couple idiots were going to come by someday, and then he like pulls out a gun or something, you know. That didn't happen though, so it's okay. You did not make that reference because it didn't exist. Let's see. What I like the devil's in the details. I liked a lot of the details here. I loved having watched a bunch of art films back in the day. I definitely loved their depressing 50s black and white recreation of the house, and then every time you
Yes.
go back to the house, it goes back to black and white. That was fantastic.
I wish more movies would do that. Yeah, that's something kind of Edgar Wright would do, I think.
Hmm.
Like
And, yeah, and then I don't know if it's the translation or what, because I mean this is every fourth line is in English, right? So you do get a fair amount of English in here, but it was completely not in English when they were talking about the screwer's flag, and they kept using the word screwer, at least in my translation, and I thought that was really funny. So I think we
Yeah.
should try and make that word like, that guy's just a screwer, make it
I'm
more
assuming,
prominent.
like, yeah, the word in Hindi for screw and speak is closer than the two English words.
Right, right. So it's just kind of funny to, it sounds awkward, but in like a fantastic way. It's kind of like it makes it funnier maybe than the joke was supposed to be for me, because I
Mhm.
like that kind of thing.
I mean, I laughed when Virus was hitting somebody with an umbrella and he kept yelling, "Rascals, rascals, all of you."
Yeah.
No, when we first discovered the fake rancho, I was kind of wondering if we were about to, go into the Twilight Zone, but there's, I do a Twilight Zone podcast, right? So it makes sense that I might have
Yeah.
thought that. Which I guess you could kind of argue it does a little bit, it would have been like a probably darker crap in the Twilight Zone, but
A little. So around that time, they have the whole, like, the other guys looking for this one famous scientist, which of course turns out to be Rancho. But that was so obvious. And up to this point, the film had been quite good at subverting expectations. So I was surprised when that just ended up being exactly what you knew it was going to be.
I was gonna throw out another one that, well, number one on our list is the Shawshank Redemption, which has a certain sentimentality, and this kind of knocked on that too a little bit, I think. Which I think that does it. The suicide felt very Shawshanky, right? So
Well, yeah, every suicide does. It's the most famous suicide in a movie, probably.
yeah, yeah. Well, there's what else there? Dead Poet Society. I guess that's a notable one if you've seen that, but
I
um
haven't because I've already seen Good Will Hunting. I don't need to see Dead Poet Society.
Oh, I had to watch that because
The same thing.
that was filmed at the prep school my dad went to, so of course I had to watch it.
Ah. I mean, there's a lot of convenience here. It's really weird that like 10 years later to the day on the day that on Revenge Day, Pia's getting married. She didn't get married anytime. I feel like in India, you probably don't wait like 10 years to get married, right? I don't know that for sure, but it feels like
Well, if you're betrothed at age 12, you might. I mean, that happens, doesn't it?
ugh. Yep,
Well, I'm
probably.
I'm thinking they wait 10 years after that. Luke's cringe there made
Like
me think, oh,
no.
wait a minute. No, okay, he's giving a stronger no. Okay, I'm cutting off on that. I'm thinking too optimistically here.
Just
Sorry.
like in Capernaum.
Yes, thinking too
Um
optimistically. Okay.
yeah, it's things are weird with marriage and relationships in India, and I don't know. It definitely this movie definitely had a vibe. Did you guys feel like this movie definitely had a vibe of like, you guys are miserable in college. You should be more like Americans who do whatever they want.
um,
And
well, I mean, obviously, in Japan has similar issues to India with extremely competitive college system that's like you've just got to do it if you want a job, and then your parents are pressuring you to get the best possible job. Like, I know a lot of kids who've been told they're going to be doctors and never asked if they want to be, right? So
yeah,
um that felt pretty relevant. But then I really liked that Rancho got that thrown in his face when he's like, you should be studying for the love of science. And the other guy's like, oh, great, you can study for the love of science. I just need a fucking job. So I'm gonna
yeah.
cram and pass the test. And stuff
Well,
like that.
and speaking as somebody personally who I really did just study whatever I wanted to when I was in college, and then
Hmm.
kind of just did what, and I was on track to be a photographer, and digital cameras came out and I was like, nope, this is probably a dead end. I'm just going to quit immediately. And I don't know if that was a good or a bad idea, but
I'm pretty sure
I
photographers still exist.
I had
they
pretty much
do,
the
but
same
it's
track
like,
as Mark. I was in
yeah,
a journalism school and I wanted to be Peter Parker, right? So,
yeah,
but then they were shifting, I guess they were shifting me over like do more writing, do more writing. I just didn't want to write, and then I
yeah,
changed to a different school at that university and did education
yeah.
instead.
But like truly now I'm in my mid 40s and like really wanting like a career change and wanting to like do something, so I'm going to have to do some kind of education while incredibly broke and living paycheck to paycheck and not having a great job and in tremendous debt. So like maybe I could have used something closer to an Indian parent yelling at me, because my parents are just like, whatever,
Hmm.
you're busy. They're just like, do whatever you want. And my mom is still very patient and very loving, and I do really appreciate that. I'm not blaming her at all here. And it's nice to still have a parent who's like super kind, but damn, I could use a good job. Somebody hire me to do a podcast for money, please. I'll take on a third podcast. I don't care.
No, I got a little lucky. Georgia has many problems, but they did have the scholarship where if you kept your grades up, they paid for your school. So that
Yep.
helped out on my end. So I had a reasonably chill university experience, I guess, which is nice. Not
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah, no, I am thankful that I didn't have anybody. Yeah, I
Also,
can't
I
say
went
that
to
I
a
would have
school big
done.
enough, it was like
Yeah.
30,000 people, so you could stay extremely anonymous, which is not the case at the school in this movie where everyone seems to know everyone
Hmm.
else. Um,
Yeah, it reminds me of when I was taking the physical fitness test in elementary school and all the scores were on the wall. And
do they do that?
actually, they did that when I was in elementary school, and my mom had them taken off the. Going very back to my mom, I'm sorry to. She had them taken off the wall because I was always last place because I was born pigeon-toed, so I couldn't really run when I was a child. I was like kind of I became a lot stronger later in life. So it's like I guess I had direct experience with this sort of thing, except my mom was like, fuck you, take it off the wall. And
Hmm.
the gym teacher hated me for it, but fuck him, he was terrible. So
I don't think I ever had a score on a wall because I think, let's see, when I first saw Starship Troopers, it looked weird, right? In Japan, they do it, but that was again, I didn't start seeing that till I was in my 20s. So, Luke, you ever have your score
yeah.
on a wall?
I don't think so. But not for like anything educational, maybe for like some sort of extracurricular competition or something. But also I don't really remember because I always did pretty okay at school was my niche. Like I could always pass without really trying. So I never learned to give a shit. So I never was like a
Mm,
straight A student or like a bottom of the list student. I was always just like, I can just exist and think about other things.
Yeah, for me,
that's good.
especially in university, it's like if my grade point average is above 3.0, I don't need to pay for classes. So I had that little incentive going for me.
Hmm.
I mean, C gets the degree, right? That's a
Yeah.
real thing.
Yeah, but B
Um,
B B got me not having to pay for classes, so
yeah.
I had to maintain B's in uni.
I was straight A student until I decided to get a job and get an apartment, in which case I was stretching myself way too thin.
I was
And
much closer to a straight A student until I got my first high school girlfriend.
uh I definitely had a girlfriend the year that I dropped out of college.
No, I do remember in university very much being like, this is a class I don't need to give a fuck about, and this is one I will, right? So I
Hmm.
could
Yeah.
you'd make that distinction, which I guess a lot of people do that, and a lot of people don't. I don't really know, to be honest. So
Yeah. Well, so there's taking your own path can be its own reward, or it could be its own prison, or I guess you know it's
Yeah, I think like because I do have like I said, I have a lot of students who are like it feels like they've been told their career path from like birth.
Hmm,
But not some of them, obviously, it's a very stressful thing. But I also have other kids where I can tell like it's kind of freeing for them. I remember I
yeah,
taught two sisters who were both like their mum and dad were both doctors and they're going to be doctors. Um, and one of them hated it, But the other one, I think, had just accepted it so young that like she didn't really stress about anything. She was like, yeah, well, I'm gonna do this, so I don't have to think about it. And like in a way, I think she was, for some people that can be happier that way, right?
I absolutely think so. I mean, not to get back into the relationship thing, but arranged marriages apparently have a high happiness rate. I don't know how they measure that. And
Well, I mean, like the
eh,
concept of like marrying for love or whatever is pretty young.
yes.
I mean,
Um,
maybe like in like European peasants, maybe it was more common, but for a lot of history, it was very common. Like you would marry for political reasons, you would marry for like business reasons, social reasons. The
yeah,
idea
I've
of just I'm marrying who I want is fairly new. And, you know, we're not necessarily that good at knowing what we want.
no, and
I think especially people who marry young, it can be very risky because you're not finished becoming who you are until you're like mid late 20s, maybe even 30s.
yeah, I have no idea. It must be some kind of immeasurable, or probably is measurable, but there's some metric where I've definitely went to high school with some people who married their high school girlfriend or boyfriend and are just still together now. And I
I'm not
haven't
saying
gone
it
around
can't happen
taking,
or it doesnn't happen.
yeah.
I
I'm
guess
just
But I
there
saying
is
think
a
that
those people are simple and stop developing after high school.
that's yeah, that absolutely I would not. Um, I don't know. I think that probably the first person I dated who I would even think to myself now that I could be with now was in my mid 20s, and I definitely, was not dating, and I've dated people since then that were completely wrong for me. So it's just that I think maybe if you get lucky enough to marry somebody who you're compatible with when you're young, then that can work, but it is luck. It's just like anybody, whenever I hear a celebrity interview and they don't say anything about being lucky, it's all like hard work. I worked myself up, like that they're full of shit. Like you have to
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge that luck plays any kind of success, luck plays a role in it. So
No, I worked hard to have a dad with an emerald mine.
yes,
it,
I manifested all those emerald
yeah, I was
people.
thinking I've been fascinated by sister-in-law's little spur of the family because all of them in that particular strain of family, they all get married at 20 and have a kid by 21, which is bizarre. But I mean, her husband's a law professor, so it's not like he's a screw up or anything. But that and I've been a great uncle for the past 2 years already as a result of this, which is kind of weird.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah, I have I have a third cousin on the way, and it's my youngest cousin got married when she was 18 and I was like 20, 21 or something, and I didn't go to the wedding, and I don't remember why. I think I was just like drunk, but I also just could not process why my young cousin was getting married. It made no sense. It was like my brain couldn't process that it was real. You know what I mean? And they're still married, and their oldest daughter just just got married at 24, so that's closer to, I don't know, closer to what I would think would be
Sorry, I missed your wedding. I was
average.
drunk.
I don't I don't know. It sucks that I don't remember why. I feel bad about it, but it's like I don't know. Um yeah, I'm sorry if you're listening, which I'm sure you're not because you probably are mad about me being a leftist.
Also, when we saw arranged marriage in Baggy 3, it wasn't like, oh, I've arranged for you to marry someone else rich. It was more like the sister and the brother were trying to set them up with someone they would actually like, right?
Yeah,
So in
they're
that kind of sense, like I think a lot of people, their friends probably have a better idea of who they would actually get along with than they do. Like how often have you either been on one side of this or the other where like someone is with someone they clearly shouldn't be with, but you cannot tell someone that. They
oh
will
yeah,
never listen to that, right? But
Jesus
then like
Christ.
when they finally broke up, they're like, "Oh shit, you were right all along."
Yeah,
But
I
like,
had
yeah,
to ask.
maybe if we let someone else just pick who we should be with, maybe they would do a better job of it.
Yeah, I had to ask a friend of mine, like, if I told you to break up with her, would you have done it? And he was like, yes. And I unfortunately don't believe him, but
Well, it is yes
but
with a question mark, isn't it?
yeah, it was. I think he was on some level knew that I couldn't. It's like all you're gonna do is just make them mad at you, and then when they break up with whoever it is, they're not gonna come back and be like, "You were right." They're just gonna be sad. They don't care, It doesn't matter what anybody thinks. But some of us, like myself, just at any red flag, we just leave. So
Mm.
that's its own thing. But nobody has to tell me to leave. Go on.
Hey Mark, when we started the podcast, you were giving Amir Khan leading man syndrome, which I kind of see what you're saying, but I did want to like ask you to like detail that idea.
Oh, I mean, he's the main character.
Right.
He is the
I,
main character who's written in a way that is kind of almost like he he almost feels like someone who would narrate, but he just doesn't. Like he would break the fourth wall and talk to you, but he just kind of doesn't. I did
Everyone but him does in a way.
yeah, kind of. I mean, for a brief period in the middle, I was like, wait a minute, is this the Big Bang Theory? Like, is
that
this
I had a
making
Sheldon note, yes. It is
I
a
was,
Except from that
Sheldon
he
note.
actually does understand people, right?
Right,
yeah, he
right.
understands people really well. It's like, whoa, is he gonna say bazinga at somebody?
He gets a little bit Sherlock in places even. No,
Yeah,
I thought he was gonna turn out to be dead
I kind of thought
because
that
they were
too.
making him so perfect, right?
Yeah,
I'm glad they didn't. Like the film had enough sad moments along the way that I think it earned a fairly happy ending.
yeah. As weird as it, it still feels weirdly convenient that it's like this guy went 10 years without getting married, and Pia just waited 10 years to get married until these guys drove up and took her out of the wedding. It's a
Yeah,
lot of
I think they could have just made the time a little bit shorter than 10 freaking years.
yeah.
No, I was just curious because, like, one thing we didn't come at this. If you're Indian or Chinese, apparently, you're coming in watching Amir Khan as sort of a, like one of the biggest stars in the world, right? This is like leading man vehicle, whereas I'm not familiar with him because I'm from America and haven't watched a ton of Indian movies. But this is like having your Tom Cruise or whatever helming the movie, or you're so.
Or you're Matt Damon.
I was about to say that, but then I was like, well, Good Will Hunting was like one of his
Was how he
first movies.
became a star, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you saw me starting to go like, ah, David, and it didn't come out.
Well,
But that's a
yeah,
perspective on this movie. Like the audience that was going to see this in theaters was seeing this as, oh, this is a major star vehicle where we were like, hey, what's this? Who are these people? We need to acclimatize to this movie a little bit.
Mm.
it is a I want to say it's a very difficult um it's a difficult trick to write a character who's brilliant and not hate him. And this movie pulls it off really well because I mean,
Well, also
I don't
the
know.
movie does give him imperfections, right?
Yeah, I mean
Like he
and
obsessed, like even the first time we see him like build the drone, he's like, oh yeah, we're gonna build this drone and save this guy's project, and then there's a big sing and song dance about how cool he is, and then the song ends with like, oh shit, the guy's already killed himself.
yeah, I yeah.
It was a very Gaston song before that, though, wasn't it? No
Yeah.
one does like Gaston.
It's so weird. I'm looking at Amir Khan's like filmography, and it's like the film he was in before this has a cover that uses the same color background and the same font as
Hmm.
the Three Idiots poster, and it says it's called like Stars on Earth, and that has an 8.3, so that's damn close to list.
Hmm.
And there's like a there's a cut. What the hell? There's a screenshot where he looks like he's dressed like Wario or something. Like what the hell?
Ooh,
Anyway.
there's a movie we should be watching.
Maybe he was doing a shit bit on SNL.
Or
So
the
that's
Indian
that's
equivalent.
two must digs
Got
in one
him.
episode already. So
Yeah, there should be a counter at the bottom of the YouTube video.
did you listen to that game show where Smurf made predictions in advance?
Was
It was
it
like 2 years ago. But his
Oh
prediction
man,
for me was
I
like,
know I have.
it was like, you will make an Elon Musk joke, and I fell right into it. Lost 5 points.
Yeah, it's hard to remember all the references from all the game shows because
Oh, I
there's
know.
just too many.
For us, well, I think the only person who remembers them is me because I have to listen to every episode like 3 times.
Yeah.
Once when I'm on it, once when I'm editing, and then once when I actually listen to it.
Yeah, I loved the
Uh,
console wars episode from a couple of weeks ago. That was one I had to turn off because I was laughing too hard at work and I thought people would like
Nice.
think I was insane.
Mark's gone insane. Were you on headphones?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great if you're just sitting there. Especially if you don't have the headphones, that makes it better, right?
I mean it was stuff like, hey, the 3DO versus the Game Boy Advance. Anyway, listen to Game Show listeners.
I'm guessing we're all gonna call this a film. No one really wants to filth it up. Although
Yeah,
I will say when it started, it did feel like a filth film, and then just quickly kept getting better,
I
better
don't
until it
think
was
that's an
extremely good.
accident, even. But I think the film starts a little more
Like
like
dumb comedy.
generic. Yeah,
Yeah.
like dumb comedy, and then slowly it does like a truncated version of the BoJack Horseman trick of starting with broad caricatures and then just digging deeper and deeper and deeper until you're just like, no one's good and no one deserves any of it, and it's all just sad. Although this then wraps it up in a slightly happier conclusion.
Right.
Unless you buy into the theory that actually everyone is dead and it's just the afterlife. They all
You
died in
could
the
do
flood.
that to anything.
See, man, I'm deep. I know.
They all committed suicide in university. That's why this movie is actually really dark. Like nobody made it out because the system's so oppressive.
Yeah, this is Indian films, much like Chinese films, do like broad comedy, and sometimes there's weird fast motion gags that are kind of like cheesy to our Western like tastes, but I find them really charming. It's like once you get used to it, it's just fun.
Yeah.
It's like, you know,
There's plenty that our films do, which I'm sure if you weren't immersed in that culture would seem dumb and cheesy.
absolutely like a new
Like all the
Alien film,
needle drops. I'm just
needle
thinking
drops,
specifically
or
in
like
comedies, but yeah.
any movie that has like a talking to you, Alien Romulus. It's stupid. I don't need a big thud when an alien jumps on somebody.
I was emailing with Maddie yesterday or messaging, whatever we do these days, because we were going to do a nonsense trip. But then he was like, "Oh, I'm going to see Alien with my wife," and that I don't know when he said that. Suddenly, I thought, "Wait a minute, it's a Disney movie now." I really hope that the new Alien starts with the Disney Castle logo.
No, I
I'll
think
tell you,
they've dug up the Fox logo. It says 20th Century Pictures.
it
Oh,
does a shittier version of what Alien 3 does at the beginning. Most of the things in that movie are ripoffs of other Alien movies, including that.
okay. It just comes out. It comes out in Japan, I think, tomorrow. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I'm
we
not saying
we
don't
ain't
see it,
seen it
but
yet.
it's a bunch of member berries.
Right.
And
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Which
I haven't seen
could.
Covenant yet. Which one would you recommend?
Romulus is better than Covenant,
All
but
right.
I do think Prometheus is better though, personally. So some people would scream at me if I said that to them, but
Although that's what Alien is just an infinitely rewatchable film itself, though. It's almost like you don't need
it
you just watch Alien again. I never
And
get
well,
tired of
Aliens.
watching Alien.
it struck me when I was watching Alien Romulus that it's like every Alien movie is basically a nature film where you're watching a species just go through its natural life. So we don't need any more sequels because it's like watching a movie. It's called Dog, and like you watch a dog just do what dogs do. That's what every fucking Alien movie is. That
Well, that's why I like Aliens and I like the Alien versus Predator films because they mix up the alien more. Whereas
I
most of the straight sequels don't mix up the alien. Like Aliens, we get to see a queen.
yeah
Alien versus Predator, we get to see the alien infect a predator, so it's a little bit different than when it
yeah
infects a human. Stuff
I
like
need to see
that.
those. Like I've never watched those because
I mean, they're not good,
people,
but
but
I've as a creature feature fan, I like them.
yeah, but
Like,
it's somebody who's kind of bored. That's the thing, is that even Romulus even kind of rips off the cool thing at the end of Alien Resurrection, which I do really love that thing. And the thing in Alien Romulus is the best thing in Alien Romulus, but it's still not as cool as the Resurrection. The alien with the human eyes is
I
like
keep
super cool.
I keep almost buying the Predator Alien versus Predator Blu-ray set, and then I go back, and then the price is popped up again. So one day and or I've already decided to buy something else, but it's on the tip of my brain.
I'll
I
just
need
watch
to
it all
do
on
the
Disney Plus,
yeah.
and then Disney can kill my wife.
Yeah.
I
So I
I
have a
have
question for you guys.
mhm.
Spice World, I think we kind of came down on that Spice World, which we just did, was the funniest bad list movie. Do you think this is the funniest good list movie?
So far, I think so.
Doctor Strange. Well, Doctor, you don't laugh out loud at Doctor Strangelove, but
No, that Strange Love's more
I
like
have
it's
trouble
smart.
saying no to Doctor Strangelove. Singing in the Rain was pretty funny.
That
I'm
is true.
sitting here
Oh
Singing in the
man.
looking at
Rain
the
was
list.
charming, but I don't know if I laughed much. Then again,
Yeah.
did I? No, there were at least a
Yeah,
couple actual gags that did make me laugh in this.
I
Um,
definitely laughed at Sing in the Rain, but I don't know if I laughed as much as this.
how
But
about The
also,
Great
this is economy
Dictator,
of number.
which was not
Oh,
a totally
yeah.
jokey Chaplin. It was less jokey Chaplin. It still had,
No,
especially that
yeah, I did
first
still
part.
have laughs. Yeah,
Yeah, the upside down plane and stuff. So that
Yeah.
Sunset Boulevard had some nice dark humor. I'm not trying to just like piss on your theory here, but
No,
we've had
no.
some good humor in some of these
I'm
movies.
not I'm not here to present you with a theory that will challenge you. I'm here to have a discussion about my theory. So
Okay, well,
that's all
I would
fair.
say that it might be, but it has like contenders.
I think it's
Okay.
definitely it
Funniest
It's more.
three-hour
manages to
movie.
be both a comedy but also a film that feels firmly like it belongs on this list, which isn't always easy. Because like sometimes a pure comedy can be feel very throwaway. And then sometimes if you try and put too much drama in a comedy, you lose some of the comedy. So this film does a very successful job of holding on to both of those things.
I mean, let's look
And like it
ahead. Is there?
uses the comedy to like build to a dramatic moment, or
Yeah,
uses the drama to sort of almost like add extra shock value to a
I'm just
comedic
looking
moment and
ahead
so
at
on.
what might be funny in the future. There's a few more Chaplins, of course. Um,
Mhm.
I guess people, like even if you rate a comedy very high, for someone else, it just didn't quite tickle their funny bone the right way, and they're gonna rate it
Yeah,
as
comedy is very
average.
subjective, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean everything is very subjective, and that's why we end up with some films that are like no one's favorite film, but everyone likes them as our actual like top 10 when we get to it.
Back to the Future, but its primary identity is not necessarily a comedy. It is, but it's also several other things, right? So,
I think that Back to the Future at one point in my life was my favorite movie, and I'd bet that it's that way for a lot of people. Like I think Ghostbusters, probably there are a lot
Yeah.
of people who Ghostbusters was
Ghostbusters and Back to
someone's
the
favorite
Future are
movie.
both comedies which Hollywood seems to have forgotten were comedies and now treats like these dramatic
Yeah.
holy pieces.
God, I'm so
um,
glad they can't keep making Back to the Futures, because
we will
the
have to
Futures
Yeah,
contend
yeah,
with
yeah.
Life is
Zemeckis
Beautiful
is
at
a
some
legend for
point.
that.
That remains on the list.
Oh, is that a comedy?
What theory is made by a comedian, right? Have you not seen that
No,
movie?
I've never seen it.
Oh, that is the Holocaust comedy.
I thought that was The Day the Clown Cried.
No, I was
I don't
reading
think
an
that's a
article
comedy.
about the day the crown cried, and it brought up Life is Beautiful as being like a later attempt at doing the same thing that was slightly more successful.
Yeah.
It won Oscars.
Yeah.
Like
We
people
also
loved it at the
have
time.
um, Joker, which was a
Yeah.
film made by
Yeah.
a comedy director when he decided
I
that
guess you
Hollywood was
could call
too
it
woke
for
and you can't do comedies anymore.
well, Robert
Oh
Zemeckis
yeah.
again. There's Forrest Gump, which
Not funny.
theoretically not funny, but theoretically it's a comedy, right? I'm just saying.
Is
Son
it?
of the that's Bad List, but Son of the Mess, it's got funny stuff, right? Like a dramedy.
Uh,
Oh,
Um,
yeah, I've never seen any of the Mask sequels.
oh,
Even the Mask, only the scenes where he's the Mask hold up.
also I was looking at the
The
Bad
rest of the
List for
uh,
film
that
is
one. My
boring as
eyes.
hell.
I'd believe that.
No, I
Silence of the
remember
Lambs is funnier than Forrest Gump. I'm just looking at the list.
that Hopkins humor. Yeah.
One
Uh,
Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is funnier than Forrest Gump. Um,
yeah. Crazy Nicholson, right? Okay. I mean, it's got, I mean, think you're being half snarky, but yeah, it's got some truth, right?
Not really. No, I'm not being snarky. I just hate
Okay.
Forrest Gump.
Well, yeah,
Fight Club is pretty funny,
it is.
actually.
But you
Uh,
wouldn't call it comedy, necessarily. Again,
no,
you might say dramedy if you wanted to, bloody dramedy with
yeah.
toxic
You put like a
masculinity.
black comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Um,
Goodfellas, which is, a lot of Scorsese from that period is just funny, but
yeah.
also
I've got some 1 stars here that I can read. One of them, it seems like it's too fun not to read, although it's at one point they call it an average movie. So I don't think it's a real 1 star, but I do have to read it. Emotionally manipulative movie based on a topic that youngsters like. That's the title.
Virus wrote this.
I seriously don't like it. I think its theme is based on mocking education system. That's why youngsters tend to like it. And it is because of this that the film emotionally manipulates its viewer based on many things that could only happen in fantasy, including a supernatural flawless hero. And let's not talk about the logic and the baby delivery part of the film and several others. Overall, the film has one positive message to follow one's own dream. So all in all, it is an average movie, nothing more, nothing less. And yes, extremely overrated, possibly the most in Bollywood. There's a bit of a language gap there, I'm guessing too. But
All
uh,
right, I got one.
is it one of the worst films of all time?
No, but you should put a pin in that. I'm just gonna read this short one.
Okay.
Overrated movie. Acting and camera work are okay. Directing is bad. Editing and screenwriting are abysmal. Cartoonish sounds and over-explained humor were added, I assume, in order for people with less than 50 IQ to understand the joke. Were most of the jokes written by a bitter high school dropout? Because that's the typical jokes that you hear from them. I could watch this cringe mess only for 30 minutes. The fact that this movie is in top 250 is an insult to the film industry. P.S. About the myth of spending millions on a pen that could write in space. While they could have used a pencil, the people that work in NASA are not stupid. They wanted to invent such pen because the pencils were flammable and were made of graphite that can easily break off, and they only spent 1 million on research. 5 out of 18 found this helpful.
So he self-reports he only watched 30 minutes of the film.
Yes,
And he goes on to
exactly.
prove, but like that, he kind of, I might have been in the same boat had I not had to watch it for the podcast, because like Matt says, the
Yeah.
film doesn't like reveal how good it is early on.
Yeah,
And like a lot of things are mentioned, which it's not until later that it's like, oh, the writers did understand what they were doing. So I could imagine like being that guy.
yeah, maybe. I rarely watch indie movies that aren't action movies, so it did maybe take this podcast for me to watch something that's a dramedy.
Well, like as I've said many, I wouldn't have watched almost any of the films on this list without this podcast, because I just watched like monster movies and robot movies and stuff.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have watched Good Will Hunting. It's boring.
Do you, Luke? Do you have a point where there's the first bad movie on the list that you've seen before, or do you know?
Let me have a look.
Mine's coming up, and it's Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
The first one. Wait, you
Oh,
haven't
wait,
seen
no,
the
mine
bad
was
ones?
super early because I'd seen X versus Sever already.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Oh man, I
What
love
what
that
did I
stuff.
seen previously? Yeah, actually, now that you're saying it, I guess most of them were new to me. Huh? I'd seen the Avengers before we did the podcast.
There you go. Yeah, I'm the
Yeah,
last
so
one.
literally. Oh, what about Speed 2? Surely you'd all seen Speed 2.
I had not
No,
seen
never.
Speed 2.
Oh, wow.
The Fog.
So yeah, literally the second bad list movie I'd already seen. On the good list,
I'd seen Superman 4: The Quest for Peace several
on the
times.
good list,
right.
the first one I'd already seen was Toy Story 3, which is
Oh yeah.
the 7th. So I seen the second bad list movie, but not until the 7th that I seen the good list movie.
As I said, I do have one more 1 star.
Oh yeah,
which
go for it.
does seem to be a little more hateful. Um, one of the
Please
worst
do.
films of all time by D. Braindead. Review contain awesomeness of the highest caliber that once read you won't regret in agreeing with the following. The horrible humor and the irritating characters. This film is nothing but another Bollywood tripe that has been overrated by the larger majority. Look for the ultimate escapism with bright colors and artificial environment and settings. The music is loud and blatant at the time it become unstable. Amir Khan is charming as having a hernia. Why is he in so many Bollywood that are so well received? I think we are forced to believe he will be the next Mahatma Gandhi. Never been so appalled that I felt that I was the idiot for ever watching this film.
That is so racist. It's almost like a new level. Oh, he's gonna be Gandhi.
Oh yeah, 23 out of 77 found that. And reading it, I just felt like my throat was like on a weird tightrope trying to just pronounce those sentences and read them
Yeah.
accurately for what I was seeing on the page. So let me read that first sentence again. Review contained awesomeness of the highest caliber that once read, you wouldn't regret in agreeing with the following. That seems like some weird Zen cone that you're never going to work out.
uh, I keep forgetting to put this in the beginning of the podcast. The tagline is "Don't be stupid, be an IDIOT." That's like it's abbreviated. But also tags for this include motivation, coming of age, against the system, and hairy chest.
All right. Well, I don't know, seeing that we've already done 10 minutes on Alien, do we wrap it up for today, or did anyone have another point they wanted to throw out?
No, I think we've
I'm
pretty much hit
glad.
what I wanted to hit.
I'm really glad that we have an Indian movie on the good list because I didn't think we were going to get one. Um, I love like visiting this world, this parallel universe of Bollywood, and it's nice that I got encouraged to do so and watch a life affirming dramedy instead of watching, a dude murder people, which I do like watching a dude murder people, but it's nice to take a break from that sometimes.
Nice to take a break from all the murder sometimes. By the
Yeah.
way, when there's that second of silence, I Zoom cuts it out, but I was literally listening to crickets, which made it like extra fun.
If I told you so Mercy is a Tokyo girl, and the first time she came and stayed a night
Not
in
no more.
Matsumoto, um, at Rob's place, she heard the like just the sounds of nature outside. And she's like, "Are you playing a CD?"
Oh man. Yeah, that definitely reminds me of when I was a kid and a couple of times going out into the country and be like, whoa, they're stars. Because you just like
Yep.
the light pollution. The light pollution here is so unreal that you just can't really see stars all
My
that
God,
much.
it's full of stars.
Yeah.
There we go. Good job, Matt.
I thank you.
My God, my astronaut pen, why is it floating?
Um, I guess we will go ahead and wrap it up today. If you want to support three different idiots than the ones in this movie, head for Patreon at Podcastio Podcastius, where you get a little extra chatter here. You get us talking about the Twilight Zone at Time Enough podcast, where you guys appear. We just finished doing Space 1999 on Podcast 1999, and we will be soon going ape to continue that one. Kind of weirdly having the original concept I had for with Luke for a podcast. I have the same idea for everything, I guess. So, and there's for gaming stuff. There's Luke Loves Pokemon game show. When's Monster Mash coming back? I don't know when release dates
Monster
are.
Mash, there'll be like an episode this year, but the new game's not out till next year.
Okay, so
Hyrule Field Report will be back fairly soon though, with going back to the original NES Zelda. And me and Mark need to arrange some recordings before you get back on the 1999.
Yep, I'm playing through it. It's very hard and I'm gonna have to look at a guide, but it's very fun.
Zelda 1 I beat. I didn't have a guide, I just had a map.
That's probably
Zelda
a good
2,
idea.
like, use as much guides as you need. It's
Oh no, Zelda 2, I'm using a Game Genie code to just be invincible. I will beat it, but I'm gonna use the code.
Congratulations.
I've already played through about a third of that game using save scumming, just like rewinding whenever I get hit, and then I had to do it a lot. So respect anybody who's actually beaten that legitimately, but we'll be talking about that too at some point.
Okay, it is September 5th, so let's meet back in this Zoom meeting in 10 years and see who's the most successful.
Revenge Day.
There we go. So everybody knows what we're doing next week. That doesn't need to be told by me. Um,
Is that your name on
if we can
Monday?
get it. Smolensk.
oh,
Smolensk.
Luke,
Yes.
you got to summarize that one. Good
See if I
luck.
can manage to watch it.
Just trying to QAnon anonymous it, I guess, with your
It's for Luke's birthday.
If I'd known about it earlier in advance, I would have tried to get one of those guys on. Probably too short notice now.
Yeah.
Wait, you know Polish
Toss 'em
guys?
out. No, the QAnon Anonymous guys.
Oh, yeah.
Because we had one of them on for
Right.
what movie?
That's
was
right,
it?
you did, didn't you?
Skull
That's
Island.
wild.
Skull Island, yeah.
That's wild. That podcast is huge now.
Yep.
Yeah. What else
Yeah, I
was
got in there just before it completely blew up.
So
That's awesome.
yeah,
I'm
next
gonna
week was 8:30. The week after it's that weird Tuesday with your name, and that is one of the eights I scheduled, or sevens for Mark. That one's not at the 30.
Okay, I'll make sure that is
But I'll avoid doing that as we move
correct.
along.
Good deal.
And Luke, I
Skull
guess we're
Island's-
gonna put you down for Conquest as far as the 8 movies go.
Whatever.
I thought he was
Sure.
going to do Conquest and the original. Right?
No, he already did the original. We
I
did
already
it
did
on
the
the
original.
Beneath? Well, then
I
he's
did
doing
original
Beneath.
and Beneath for the old podcast.
Right, so it's gonna be one of the
Oh.
last 3. Yeah, so I was just gonna flip the old podcast guests for the first 2.
Okay.
So now it's John for Planet and then Andrew for Beneath.
Oh,
And,
Andrew. Sorry, I forgot. I
Yeah,
got
it was
words.
Matt and Luke's Sci-Fi Sanctuary, so I was on all of those.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, of course.
And Luke, it seems that we have organized Sarsaparilla for some apes. So
Awesome, of course.
Yeah, he said he would do Escape, which is
I feel
Yeah.
like that's the most one for him because it's got the most like kind of just dumb real world stuff like the circus and stuff. Because once you get to Conquest, now it's like weird dystopia, which is why I gave it to you, Luke. Which actually Conquest is my favorite apes movie. So
yeah. Brian was. I talked to Brian. He seemed to be taking it really seriously, and he was really regretful that he didn't do the podcast at one time because since he wasn't able to make it, he's become a regular listener, and now it will be like, hey, I listened to your episode on this or that. So now we've like got him in our
okay, that's
we've
cool.
we've snared him in our web of intrigue or some shit.
Yeah.
So now he's gonna show up.
Okay, I don't get to make comments on podcasting except for the occasional YouTube comment is about all I see. So
Maybe it's just because we're maybe it's because I'm friends with a bunch of Americans. And
yeah,
I
we're
don't know.
also oh yeah, Luke, update on the YouTube. It seems that Films and Filth has fallen into some weird YouTube algorithm, and people seem to show up
Yeah,
and think
I know,
it's a
I've
real
seen.
movie. And yeah,
Well, you can check how long they're watching.
oh yeah, I think a lot of people
Huh.
think it's a real movie though, even
So
though
they're
the
only
thumbnail
watching for the
shows
first
it,
10
and even
minutes
though
or
it
so.
starts with a title that is not the movie, which I guess I could put podcast in the title, but fuck those people.
I mean, to do wow, I just saw that Captain America episode was Films and Filth 69. That's great.
Yeah. You can only do it once. I mean, not 69. You can only have episode 69 once.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I really want to do a thing where I find some automation to post the podcast a bunch of places, even though clearly we've been doing this for over a year, but I gotta figure that shit out.
You could do. I mean, there's a nice big catalog if people do stumble in, right? So that's always nice.
I figured I would do something where it alternated between sharing the newest episode and sharing like the rest of them in order instead of reposting them. Like there's some podcasts that keep reposting old podcasts and it just turns into a huge mess.
Yeah, that's I think I did that a couple of times, but
I've
shied away from it.
services.
Yeah. I don't know why podcasts do that. I think it's just somebody told them to draw engagement, post 2 podcasts a week. Probably.
You get closer to episode 666 that way, right? Because now you have an extra episode.
Yeah, like Behind the Bastards does 2 episodes a week, even though it really doesn't have to, but it just always does. And then and then there are a bunch of other episodes it does in between where I'm just like, God, just fucking
like other podcasts, they just whack on the feed. Something.
And sometime this month. When do you go to UK?
The week we're off.
Oh, it's just the 1 week thing.
I leave that Tuesday and come back the Tuesday. Yeah, it's just 1 week, and then in March, me and Mercy will both go for 2 weeks.
Okay.
Nice.
So the other one, I think I told you I put you down for the episode Living Doll.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Mercy should probably be on that one too if possible. So
she'll be living here.
I guess she'll be here by starting next week, right? So, but yeah, that's definitely the one that she should be on for as well.
And I have a whole different thing that I don't know if I've mentioned this to you, Luke, but I'm pitching podcast where it's just gonna have everybody sit around talking about future like concepts, like flying car.
Yeah,
Like, what if
you
a flying
mentioned it
car?
to me before.
Yeah, I'm gonna start trying to round that up. But for that, I want to just record like 10 episodes over like several months and then put it out as a season, so I don't have to work too hard. And I'm sure that will not drive engagement at all, but I don't fucking care.
Man, I haven't managed to get tickets for the Nintendo Museum yet.
Oh my god, I I saw the what was it, the direct on it? I saw some of it and then I stopped watching halfway through. I'm like, I just want to see this in person.
Yeah. Well,
You
it's
Oh, I'm
always
still
a raffle for
recording. We didn't
tickets,
say
so
anything salacious, did we? Okay, I'm gonna stop recording.
could edit it if you wanted.
he
I
won't.
don't think saliciousness was said, so we're probably fine.
I
Okay.
think we said too much
Good
shop talk.
goodbye
Maybe cut
world.
that.
If
No,
you
they
listen
got
to
the
all of
shop talk
that,
now.
then like
Thanks,
transgress.
lady. I don't know.
Oh, sort your life out.
And see you later.